This is episode 1116.
If we want to unlock the next level, as an individual, as a function, we really need to stretch beyond our defaults in our thinking, right? We need to kind of rewire our brain, literally. So what I did is I started assigning some tasks outside of FP&A zone, right? Like corp dev, like IR. So those projects to our very blue and green thinkers. Because you think about it, in a corp dev world, you need to build trust with the CEO and the team on the acquisition targets. And they had to lean into the red zone, right? The speed to build trust, the empathy, even the deal negotiation. You really need to activate the red part of the brain. And in the investor relation work, right, to craft a narrative and position of ClickUp, that they have to activate the yellow brain, right? The big picture thinking, the 10,000 foot view.
Hello and welcome back to CFO Thought Leader. Our guest today is Dan Zhang, CFO of ClickUp, an AI productivity platform that's reshaping how teams work. Dan brings a unique perspective to the CFO role, shaped by a career that spans FP&A, go-to-market leadership, and a deep understanding of business models across various industries. In this episode, she explains why finance teams can't just think in spreadsheets anymore. They need to think in full color, she tells us. She shares how whole brain leadership, AI integration, and strategic experimentation are helping redefine the modern finance function. Our talk with CFO Dan Zhang begins after this.
When it comes to company spend, most finance teams are on defense, reacting to surprise spend, chasing receipts, saying no. But there's a better way. Meet Brex, the AI-powered spend platform that boosts a company's control, earnings, and speed. 99% of customer spend is compliant. 11 million hours saved on expenses and accounting through automation. $681 million plus dollars back to customers in business building rewards. Make every dollar count with Brex.
Hello. Dan Zhang is with us. She is ClickUp's CFO. Today, she oversees finance, accounting, corporate development, HR, legal, and strategic initiatives, steering ClickUp toward public readiness with deep experience across startup and enterprise finance ecosystems. Hey, Dan, welcome.
Hey, Jack. Thanks for having me here.
So, as always, Dan, we want you to look back. And as we connected originally, I said I was intrigued by your early years as well. Can you fill us in a little bit on that first chapter, your academics and what have you? Tell us a little bit about that to begin with.
Yeah, I was born and raised in a small town in China. I went to college in Beijing and actually worked as a journalist there in Beijing. At one point, I was even selling credit card on the phone because, I was just making too much money as a journalist. And one day I hit pause and thought, is this really it? I obviously wanted more from life. So I came to the U.S. as an international student with $200 in my pocket and a scholarship from Syracuse University. I got the finance degree and then also got a master degree in statistics and a master degree in sociology. So I think that unlike a 18 years old, didn't know which major to start, I intentionally picked a combo of degrees that can gives me the edge on analytics, system thinking, societal structure, and understanding, and professional skills, right, to prepare myself to start a new life in a new country. Actually, I would never forget my first night in America because the airline lost my luggage. So I don't know if that still happens today. It was the worst nightmare, right, for international students. So that night I had no bed and I slept on someone's floor, and another student is kind enough to lend me a blanket. I remember thinking, this is really a strong start. And it really was. So, in my first 6 years out of grad school, I did FP&A at 4 different companies. Amazon, Zynga, Expedia, and AppDynamics. Like every time I changed job, someone would pull me aside and say, Dan, no, 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 you are putting a black mark on your resume. Don't be a job hopper when you're just getting started.
Right.
But I wasn't trying to build the perfect resume. I was trying to build myself. I wanted to figure out where do I spike, where do I struggle, and what kind of problems give me energy, and what kind of problem makes me want to run. Right. So I gave myself the permission to explore. I treated those early years like my real world rotation program I created for myself. So, for example, from Amazon, I learned how a massive company drives relentless execution from top to bottom. And from Expedia, I learned how an online travel company optimized their razor thin margin. Right? And from Zynga, Zynga really taught me how a growth loop, which was a new concept back then, really works in gaming. Right now, it becomes the foundation for a lot of business models. How do you hack revenue by driving growth? And App Dynamics, that's where I learned how a SaaS company forecasts the recurring revenue and really dove into unit economics and scale go-to-market engine. All right, so I would say each role was a window for me into different business model, a different stage and scale, and a different leadership style. Right? And looking back, those early years career experiences really helped me build a deep sense of who I am and how I want to show up, how I want to lead. And recently, Jack, I came across this research. It said there are 4 skill sets that are critical for a senior executive. It's a little bit surprising. Those 4 are self-awareness, learning agility, communication, and ability to influence. Right. So I think that the latter 2, the communication and ability to influence, can be coached. Right. So you can pick those up along the way. Get a good coach and a few tough meetings that you'll get there. But I think the first 2, the self-awareness and learning agility, that's the inner work. Right. That needs to happen from inside, because no one can hand that to you. So you can be better at self-awareness and your speed to learn. So you have to earn it through the experience, right? And I think that the fastest way I have found is to throw yourself into many different situations and try things, get it wrong, get back up, and just pack your early career with as much exposure as possible. So like in my track, I chose the FP&A path across very different industries, right? So each one just gave me a new lens. But also over time, I started to see the limit of just doing the FP&A when it's kept in a narrow lane, right? Because too much of FP&A is reporting the news, right? Like seeing what happened and doing analysis. Just being the observer, not the driver for most of the cases. So in my year 6 and year 7, I realized that if I stay on this path in the big corporate, it will really take me a long time to become the kind of well-rounded business leader that I wanted to be.
I want to know, when you first arrived, who were it sounds like you were convinced it was going to be business. I think you knew that from the moment you slept on somebody's floor that night.
Exactly.
We're here for a business career. Back then, who did you admire? And again, you land at Amazon. So, I mean, is it the captains of industry we would suspect that were luring you forward? Who did you look up to in industry and business at that point in time, if you can think back?
Yeah. So because I was, born and raised in China, all the business world, the stories of what happened in the country, I got it like as a second hand experience from, reading the news, from watching TV. But I have something that's very important in my life who have this long-term impact on me, is my mom. So my mom, many decades ago was actually a head of finance for a pre-IPO company, in China. So that was the time, almost, 50, 40 years ago, the economy was just opening up in China. Right. So every day she would go home and just told me, share the story, what happened at her work. And at that time, banking system was, not very strong, that she would bring me on these business trips to, make sure the money were paid and the money were collected. So I was joking that I was a little AR and AP analyst with my mom when I was 7 years old. And there was a pivotal moment is, my mom realized that because of the environment back then, that she had to kind of make the choice between having a successful career on the CFO track or raising me. So she made her sacrifice to choose me. So I get to choose my dream and pursue my big plan. And she decided to, pursue a more like a slower, more stable career instead of being a CFO at a public company. So looking back, that was the moment I was just like, now I have everything I needed. I was lifted by my mom. I was very determined that I wanted to get into the business world and kind of carry her dream with me. So yeah, that was a very personal experience. I think that having a very long lasting impact on me.
Did you ever have a entrepreneurial dream as well? Was there ever sort of I'd like to do a startup. I want to be not necessarily part of one, but even have a crystal idea in the back of your mind?
Yeah, I was always starting something. I think that you can probably glean from my experiences. A new thing doesn't scare me. It actually energized me. So very early on, like I said, I was selling credit card on the phone, and I was selling a lot of stuff, from the goods to some online magazines. I was on the street handing out flyers to just to make do. So I think that deep down, I respect the entrepreneurship a lot. That's why when I get the chance to work closely with a brilliant, a visionary entrepreneur, that gives me the sense of meaning, that I also get to learn a lot. Right, what it takes to build something from nothing, from 0 to 1, and then scale it to be millions of the users. So I would say that I definitely had that little entrepreneurial itch. And at some point, I would love to try something built from scratch that's aligning with my mission, with my passion.
You never felt, again, you worked in quite a few large corporate environments as well. I mean, did you ever feel confined there? Did you ever, was the itch going to lead you somewhere else? Or did you, again, you began to tell us about that FP&A lane that you were in and you were so familiar with. It sounds like your mom groomed you from day one to become one of those professionals. Help us understand better. Were you the corporate large enterprise? Were you the entrepreneur? Who are you?
So, I had a little pivotal moment, about a decade ago, where I stepped out of finance, and I stepped into a role of, a chief of staff for a brilliant CRO, back then the chief revenue officer. So at that time, I ran go-to-market operations for a global sales team for 3 years at AppDynamics. And that changed everything, right? After a pure FP&A experience. So at that time, we scaled ARR almost 10 times. It was a very hyper growth period. And I took on multiple leadership roles in the revenue organization, in sales organization, to drive the IPO readiness. And AppDynamics was acquired by Cisco 40 hours before the planned IPO date at $3.7 billion. So that experience was very pivotal for me because I learned 2 big lessons. The first is the best insights are not sitting in NetSuite or your P&L, right? So I did FP&A at 4 giant companies in 6 years. A lot of time we're looking at the lagging indicator, looking at the things that already happened a month ago, a quarter ago. So the best leading indicator in the business, they are in your go-to-market funnel, right? They are in your frontline conversations with the rep who is trying to close a deal with the customers in those moments. And the second lesson that I've learned is there is a massive gap between making a good recommendation. Usually it's, done by the finance team after looking at data, and actually making it happen. Right. So you really need a real operational muscle to carry it through a good recommendation. I think that kind of grit and fortitude really doesn't show up in the spreadsheet or on the slide. When I was working, in an FP&A role in a large corporate. So since then, I carried that mindset with me, and I stepped back into the finance track after that 3 years, like so deeply ingrained into the revenue organization. I would say I was much more prepared to drive changes and to make things happen as a senior finance executive with that experience.
Is there something, looking back as you study this more closely, that operational muscle that you described, is there something lacking in certain finance organizations where the FP&A people and the go-to-market team are just not communicating right? They're just feeling threatened by each other? I mean, what is it? Did you learn how to communicate differently? I don't know. What exactly is that operational muscle that you described?
That's a great question. I actually done quite a bit of the thinking and research in this area. I would share a moment that really shifted how I approach growth for the FP&A team, because now I'm running the entire function there. So, Jack, have you heard of this research or this test called HBDI test?
Just in passing, if that. Tell us
Yeah.
about.
Yes, yeah. For also the audience that didn't know, it is short for the Herman Brain Dominance Instrument. So it is a tool that maps how your brain prefers to think, and it uses 4 colors to show these preferences. It is a lot more actionable for a leader than a personality test when you're trying to get the optimal result from your team, right? So for me, I use it as a tool to help my FP&A team grow, just based on my personal experience. So those 4 colors, first is blue. It is for logical, analytical thinking, right? So think of numbers, facts, data. And second color is green. That is for structured, organized thinking. All right. So think of as process, detail, planning, right? Annual planning. That is the green part of your brain. And then the third color is red. That is about emotional, relational thinking. All right. So people, empathy, communication, your people team, if you put them through the test, a lot of red people coming out. The last one is yellow. That is a big picture, imaginative thinking. Right. So strategy, vision, innovative, all falls into yellow. So as you can tell that the blue and green, they are our left brain, right? And red and yellow, they are our right brain. So 2 years ago, our whole FP&A team, they took the test together. And then we overlapped our results on one giant chart on the wall. And that was a moment of silence because we can see that there is a huge spike in blue and green, right? So very little red and almost like no yellow. So, and there is an interesting dimension for the HBDI test. They also test you like under stress. What does your color look like? Right. So you can see that under stress, it almost becomes almost like, like only one side. Right. So when there's a time crunch, when there's a deadline, that the team just like automatically shrink on the right side and rotate into the left side. So it is a very dominant left brain organization. And so I think that if a lot of finance team, FP&A team, they put their team, build their collective brain together, it probably will look like that. And just surprise, no surprise, because that's our collective brain. It's analytical, structured, precise, because we're a team of CPAs and CFAs, right? So that visual just made it so clear that if as FP&A professionals or as an FP&A team, if we want to unlock the next level as an individual, as a function, we really need to stretch beyond our defaults in our thinking, right? We need to kind of rewire our brain literally. So what I did is I started assigning some tasks outside of FP&A zone, right? Like corp dev, like IR. So those projects to our very blue and green thinkers, right? Because you think about it, in a corp dev world, you need to build trust with the CEO and, the team on the acquisition targets. And they had to lean into the red zone, right? The speed to build trust, the empathy, even the deal negotiation. You really need to activate the red part of the brain. And in the investor relation work, right, to craft a narrative and position of ClickUp that they have to activate the yellow brain, right? The big picture thinking, the 10,000 foot view. A lot of storytelling in that zone as well. Because here's the thing, I think FP&A is no longer just about budget and forecast. I think you covered on your podcast quite a bit as well, right? Recently, the CFOs now, there are more of them coming from the FP&A background than the traditional, Big Four accounting background. And I think to become a strategic CFO, you need to activate your whole brain, right? So I think that HBDI moment, it really made the invisible very visible. And once you saw it, that we know how we needed to kind of grow together as a FP&A function.
Wow. It's just wonderful insights there for us. So thank you so much. Before we ask you about ClickUp, I wonder about your leadership path. Now, you've demonstrated, you revealed to us how you're someone who moves to the opportunity. It's not like there's a clock. Okay, I invested all this time. It's time to move on. It's what's intriguing you. So you've built your career in much more of I would think risk plays a larger role in your career building as well. But how do you emerge as a leader? And was there a time where you had to be more assertive about it? And I'm curious, you mentioned coaches, and I'm wondering if there was, one coach that you had to reach out to. You might have meant it informally as well. And I think we have informal coaches and we have, deliberate coaches. But what would you reflect on that a little for us? How do you emerge as a leader? And what played a role there for you?
I would say that from everything that I've shared so far, you probably can guess that I didn't think that I would be a CFO, the senior corporate executive 20 years ago. All right. So, and then that didn't bother me, that I didn't have a pre-planned path for myself. There is a great story about Sheryl Sandberg. I think that someone asked her that, "Hey, Sheryl, what's your 10-year career plan?" And she said, "I don't have one. I don't even have a 1-year plan, because if I make a plan, I'm limiting myself of what I know today." And at that time, she was already a very successful executive, right? And willing to admit that she didn't have a plan, have a career plan. So that really resonated with me, because if I made a career plan 20 years ago when I was selling credit card on the phone, I think the CFO would be the last 3 words on my list, because I didn't know what I didn't know. So instead of chasing a big rigid plan, which was, a lot of young people are approaching me and they're like, "Oh, I want to be like a VP of finance in 10 years. So what do I need to do?" And I have to pull them back and whoa, like, what do you know about yourself first, right? Where do you, how much, gap, how much strength do you really understand about yourself? And then let's build a tailored plan. But because, in 10 years, you might be on the path of VP of revenue. You might be on the path of, the VP of accounting, right? So all this big plan almost doesn't matter, especially in the world that everything is changing and moving so fast. So I will call my kind of growth strategy for myself as taking little bets, right? So taking little bets, meaning that experience that, all the things that could teach me something new, and I can stretch a new muscle. I can start build small confidence, that's compounding, right? Even if I wasn't sure where it would lead, right? Stepping outside of finance, what would I get, right? When I step back in, do I need to regress a little bit because everyone has 3 more experience in finance than I did back then? But over time, I think those little bets, those little learnings really compound and can make you truly unique, right? So you're building a products that only the ingredients can come from your understanding about yourself. So one mindset I often share with my own team to kind of help them form a leadership principle is see yourself as a permanent beta. I borrowed this concept from a book of Reid Hoffman. The book is called Startup of You. I think it came out 10 years ago. So we all know that the product will stay in technology company, right? The products can stay in beta long time after launch. Not because they're broken, but because they're still evolving, right? The new features and the very fast iteration cycle is still happening. And a lot of people didn't know that even Gmail, launched in 2004, only left official beta in 2009. Right. So they took 5 years to really polish the product, to take the little bets. So I think calling a product a beta is a signal that this is not finished, right? We're still improving on that. So that's how I think about career as well, of like becoming a leader, because you never want to get to a place when you feel like you have arrived. And because the second you believe you're finished a product, that's when you stop learning. Right. And if you're not growing, you're contracting. So that's the very, brutal truth about being a leader. So that's kind of the leadership principle has guided me. And I'm always kind of coaching my teams to understand that.
Wow. Just such a fresh perspective for us, Dan. Thank you. You're saying a lot of things contradictory to some of what we've heard in the past. And it's just, it makes, as you explain it, it makes perfect sense to us. So thank you for that. I want to point out that you joined ClickUp first in 2021, and you were there 2 years before you entered the CFO office when you got your CFO appointment in 2023. Been there 2 years. Would love to just now find out about this opportunity. There's something that brought you there, but tell us about ClickUp. What is this company about today?
Yeah, ClickUp is AI productivity platform. We unify the entire suite of the work applications, from your project management to chat, docs, whiteboard, calendars, connected search across all your applications on your computer, all in one place. And on top of it, we have built a powerful contextual AI engine. And over the years, ClickUp has become both the system of record for work activities and the system of engagement. Right? So meaning that we don't just store your work data, we're where work happens. So this foundation allows us to do something really powerful, that is deliver AI that shows up with the right context at the right moment in the right place. And with our latest launch, ClickUp Brain Max, we're helping our customers give every employee basically a second brain. Right? It can automate your manual processes. It can take meeting notes for you. It will assign follow-up actions for your team. It will even suggest the next steps. Right? So basically plan your employees' entire day in the most optimal way. Right, so today, ClickUp, we support over 4 million of the global teams, from a scrappy 3-person jobs to a 30,000 people Fortune 500 company. Right, there are hundreds and millions of AI actions are being fired and triggered on our platform to help our customer execute faster with fewer resources, so they get a lot more efficient, and also give leaders the real-time visibility to unblock a critical project or a decision and make much faster and smarter decisions on the leadership level. As a business, I joined 4 years ago. Now we're over 1,000 employees around the world. And we're scaling really fast with efficiency, and the momentum, especially from our AI products, AI offering, has been incredible. We're quadrupling our AI business year over year now. It has become a new growth engine for us. It's just a really exciting chapter for us now. And honestly, even I being here 4 years, it still feels like this is day one and we're just getting started.
We'd like to touch on the capital structure. If we could just have an abbreviated history, as much. You've been there 4 years, as you said. But clearly, I don't know if you've had a capital raise recently, but just share with us, just backtrack a little with us.
Yeah, ClickUp bootstrapped at the very beginning, and we bootstrapped all the way to 10 million ARR. So the efficiency was kind of in the root, in the DNA of the business. And then after we hit a very strong product market fit, and you see the numbers showing in all the financial metrics, we raised funding in aggressive speed, almost back to back. Till this day, we raised over 500 million. We're a Series C company. The last time we raised was 4 years ago. and in 2021. And since then, we have been heads down focusing on driving efficient growth. So we haven't raised for a while, and we've been trying to, let the business know that we're controlling our own destiny by allocating the capital in the most strategic and efficient way. So that's kind of the financial strategy and operating principle so far.
What is your mindset when it comes to IPO readiness?
Yeah, I mean, IPO readiness, that really has a few pillars, right? So, first of all, we need to make sure that the foundation is ready, right? Meaning that you can close the book on time, you can pass the PCAOB audit, and all this technical part needs to be ready, because me and the GC, because I have legal under me as well, will be chatting that if the time has come and the CEO and the board said, ClickUp go, that we need to go out of the door. We don't want to be the ones raising hand and say, you know what, legal and finance are not ready. Right. So since a year ago that we've been partnering with the Big Four, some of the Big Four firm, to do a full IPO readiness assessment. Right. So that exercise basically will give you a heat map of across all your back office G&A function. They give you color coded, hey, this is the areas that you might, missing a critical role that you need to hire. Hey, this is the areas that the system might needs to be upgraded. It's great for a private company, but a year before your planned date, you probably want to upgrade it to, something else, right? So that basically has become a map for our accounting, finance, legal, HR team to start to put those, the big projects in place. So we're steadily, marching on the progress to get the readiness on the operational side. And the second area I will say is a lot more important is the business ready? Right? Can you forecast your numbers in a very consistent and predictable way? And we have been aspiring to operate as a public company for the past few quarters, and we've been practicing the beat and raise muscle for a few quarters, and actually a few years now, looking back in a row now, to make sure that we're going to show up confident about our business. We're going to deliver what exactly we say, and we commit to the investors when we become the public company. So that's how we've been running the companies. And no one can predict the market nowadays, but it's building the confidence. It's going public is not just a day. Is you got to stay public after that. Right. So that's the kind of the end goal for our team, is we want to be the ones that feeling fully ready when the window's open.
I'd like to get a sense of, when you think of communicating to the analyst community, communicating to the rest of the market about the AI capability. Clearly today you're getting many more pointed or educated questions than you were, say, 4 years ago when you first arrived and you were trying to help the company explain itself. You just shared with us how AI is sort of so central, is at the center of this company's story today. Was it back then? And tell us how your confidence in telling the AI story and how it amplified over the last 4 years.
Yep. So we took a very contrarian approach of building ClickUp from day one, because 8 years ago, there were a lot of best in breed kind of point solutions. Right? There is, the best whiteboard tool, and there is the best chat tool. Right? Over those years, especially, during the go-go time, the ZERP area, that every CFO, every company, they procured a lot of like SaaS tools. Right? So ClickUp took their approach that we want to build all-in-one and converged software applications. So you can do everything about work on this platform. And it was very hard to build, right? Because you need to make sure your architect that you need for infrastructure can support all these different applications on one platform, right? All the data structure needs to be designed in a way that can scale many folds after that. So because we took this approach, like I said, now we have become the system of record for all the work data that happens between the employees and between the employee and the AI. Because think about how many times that you need to copy and paste something in your chat tool, either, a Slack or a Microsoft Team, into a project management tool, right? And how many times that you need to copy and paste something, a project management tool, to a spreadsheet. So you can run some of the analysis or some of the collaboration on that. All this are hidden tax for your employees because they're losing time, they're losing context, and things are falling through the cracks. And it's very costly for the CFO and for the business as well, right? All this money that they spend on multiple different tools, then the ROI just start to not make any sense. And I think that what's more a bigger pain is for the management team, the leadership team, because they don't have the bird's eye view of everything that matters to them that's happening in the business. And the result of that, the pain point of that, which is what we've been hearing time and time again from our customer, is as a C-suite, I don't know how my project ABC is going. And if that project couldn't deliver on time, it's going to cost me millions of the top line, right? It's going to cost me millions of my bottom line. So that's what we set out to solve. And I think that the timing couldn't be better for ClickUp because in the AI world, right? So what's the real moat? It's your data. It's your workflow. It's your speed of execution. Right. So we have all the data on the platform now because we built over 30 applications that people are using without switching to a different tabs. And we have all the workflow orchestrated on our platform as well. People do everything on this platform and we have the speed of execution, right? We are 8 years old company. We're the fastest grower in our category. We're the first to the market of our AI offering, right? So that's in the DNA of the business, and we're gonna, carry it through into the future. So that's how we seeing that why AI is such a tailwind for the business and really accelerated our core offering.
Yeah. Do analysts get the speed to execution? How would they characterize when they're thinking about you today? What are they saying that distinguishes ClickUp?
Yeah, they've been following, and I think that the analysts, they are also watching to see who is the emerging leader in this AI first collaboration work management category, right? So we actually read the reports. For example, JP Morgan Equity Research Report. They track all the web traffic. For every players in this category. They track a few public players. They also track a few private player, and ClickUp is one of them. Right? If you read the recent research report, that we're the one player that is much higher. The growth is much higher of our web traffic than the other players, and we're accelerating. Right, versus some of the flat or even declining players. I think that is a leading indicator of what's capturing the market interest, because we are having a very fast and fastly iterating offerings on our AI product. And the market is noticing, and the customers and users are pulling us in, and that all translating into this top of the funnel, right? So now we have the AI funnel that we're acquiring customers with our AI products, and we're tracking the conversion, the retention, and the usage of all the AI products. It has become a very promising, just standalone business funnel for us now. So I would say the analysts they're tracking very closely. And I also heard, some of the comments, because our first AI product came out of the door in 2023. We're the first to the market that has a real AI offering, and we're, the fastest to have the true standalone AI offering as well. So those are all the signals to the market that we're the pioneer in this industry.
Did you have to modify your thinking around funnels to accommodate this AI technology, this AI product? Is it different from what traditionally, as a finance person, as you studied funnels, is there something different about it?
So I can share like what we look at, and in terms of like key metrics and data. So as a CFO, I watch two machines very closely. One is our growth machine, and the second is our cash machine, right? So no matter, AI or something different, it's all about building a business model, right? Making money. So so internally, we think this is how we think about those two machines. If your growth machine is humming, but your cash machine is broken, then you're flying blind, right? So you can't control your burn, and you certainly can't control your destiny, right? So you will be forced to raise capital, either equity or debt. So you cannot play from your strength. And if you flip it, if your cash machine is solid, but your growth engine is rusty, you have cash, you're sitting on your cash, you don't know how to deploy them so they can become the top line traction, then you're not going to survive as a venture-backed company. And of course, there are a lot of different types and stage and models of the business, but we're focusing on the VC-backed company here. So when you are not on that growth trajectory, then you cannot deliver a great exit for your shareholders, right? For your employees as well. So both engines have to work in sync to build a great business. So this is how we think about the growth in machine and how, AI is plugging into that. So at ClickUp, we have a hybrid engine. We have the product-led growth, the POG, that's driving the new customer acquisition at scale, right? We have over millions of the product sign up, right? Just in the quarter. So that's how big of a scale we're tapping into. And we layer on an enterprise sales machine to go up market. So we have like both engines. That means that we need to monitor two funnels, right? So on the self-serve side, it's like almost like a running online travel or a gaming business, right? So like coming in the full circles that I had before. So we look at short-term metrics in that funnel. The top of the funnel sign up, like I just shared, and we also monitor things like day 7 activation, day 14 conversion, day 30 retention. And because we're selling SaaS, right, so much more predictable than, buying a flight ticket or, playing a game, having a hit game. So this is a very sustainable business model. And we also zoom out and model a long-term predicted LTV to CAC. Right. So you combine a short-term metrics and the long-term metrics, you know that you're building a sustainable model. And on the sales-led side, it's the very classic B2B funnel, right? Your stage-to-stage conversion, the key meetings booked by the sales team, your average deal size, your ramp productivity. So overall, if I kind of zoom out, we use payback, the CAC payback, as the ultimate scorecard to optimize the investment into these two funnels. It really tells us where to double down and where to pull back, right? That's how we navigate the last 4 years of the market volatility, to still make sure that we're growing, we're keeping a high growth trajectory, but in an efficient manner. So let's talk about AI. So now with the AI product in the market, we've added a third lens. That is our AI funnel conversion, right? Tracking the usage pattern and attach rates in the sales deals, right? How many percentage of our sellers are they're positioning AI, and that's increasing the average deal size naturally. So this gives us a clear visibility of the incremental value that AI is bringing into our revenue engine. Right. So that incrementality really matters. And a lot of analysts are also, watching that as a very critical signal. So take our recent AI launch, the Brain Max that was shared, for example. With that product in the market, now we're seeing a higher average revenue per seat from our newer cohort of the customers, meaning that our predicted LTV is also climbing. Right. So that incrementality gives us more confidence and more room to reinvest in upfront acquisition. Right? So that is how you get to accelerate your growth with the new AI product offering, right? And that's how you start to turn the flywheel. You build a better product, more innovative AI product that will drive stronger monetization, and that will fund more aggressive customer acquisition, will bring in more higher value customer sooner, right? And around it goes. That's when you know that your growth engine is humming and is compounding.
Wow. A wonderful overview for us of the funnel. Thank you so much. We are up to what we like to refer to as our finance strategic moment. You've shared quite a few of these already, really, but we're asking our guests to look back in time and just think about a moment of insight that they experienced along the way that reveals to everyone how finance can be strategic today. What could possibly come to mind for you, Dan? What would it be?
Yeah, I would say my strategic moments in finance really came when I took up the finance hat and focused on where the business needed help the most. And then make it happen and drove the results that actually showed up in the finance numbers. This is a theme across my career experience, as you can tell. For example, at Dynamics, this was, more than a decade ago. Sales predictability was a massive pain point, right? Because we're shifting from selling a on-prem contract to a SaaS contract, right? That transformation is very painful. And also we're gearing up to scale for the public readiness at that time. So I dove into the sales process with our sales leadership team and built a full analytical stack there and gave the team a real forward visibility for the first time. But here is a part I will never forget. The APAC team, sales team, they had been just resisting the new data tools and the new dashboards that we built for them. So I started hosting 6 a.m. training sessions for our APAC team and just like walking them through rep by rep, how to use the data, how do you glean insights, how do you clean up your inputs so you have reliable outputs, right? So really start to run sales like a science, not just like arts, which has been run for, many years before that. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked, right? A few months later, the team, the APAC sales team, they surprised me with a plaque that's still on my shelf today. It's Sales MVP 2015. Right? I was the only one non-sales person who ever won it, right? And then the team told me that because, you focused on what matters most to the business at the time, which is the sales predictability, and really delivered, right? So I think that's one. And also I want to talk about a ClickUp, right? So what is our priority now? Our number one priority is very clear, is win in the AI age. So I'm leading AI adoption from the front in the organization now. And I spend, Jack, a good chunk of time recruiting AI talent. And people will ask me, hey, Dan, isn't that, a recruiting's job? Sure. But when something is this critical to the future of the business, I think the executive team needs to lead it personally. Right. So because you can set the tone, you can bring urgency, you can create momentum. And of course, you partner with your head of TA, your functional leaders, because they are experts. Right? But as a C-suite leader, you see across the whole system. You can connect dots, you can get creative, you can mobilize your resource, sometimes even replan your budget in a way that no one else can. Right. So I think the reason I get to do this is because my team has lifted me up and really scales me. Right? I can step into the next new things that gives the business the real breakthrough, and together we can make things happen. So I really want to give my team a shout out here.
Wonderful. Great shares for us. Thank you, Dan. We are up to our mentoring round. We once again ask you to look back. And again, this was 2 years ago when you stepped into the CFO role really for the first time. Again, you had observed CFOs probably up close. You had presented to them. You had understood how they communicated outwardly. But there had to be something you learned on the job, something that in that first 60 days surprised you about the role and you came to understand differently, perhaps. What would you share with us?
So when I stepped into the role, there was a moment of adjustment, right? So I realized that the moment you became a CFO, it really shifts. You're no longer just playing defense for the business. You become a strategic bet placer. You're placing bets for the business. And I think a CFO is expected to embrace investment and calculated risk more as long as the unit economics works. Right. So that's why we're tracking the funnel so closely, because for a new CFO, really I think that the number one thing is to get obsessed with your unit economics as soon as you start. And then you can confidently underwrite the risks that come with scaling a business. That's the job, right? That's the name of the job for especially CFO at high growth companies. I think that's a big difference between a VP of finance and a CFO. Because a lot of like when I was in the SVP and VP seats, that I still see my job as playing defense for many of the times, right? Hey, let me protect the company from what could go wrong. That is very important, right? It's a table stake. Risk mitigation, compliance, you cannot get it wrong, and it's all very critical. But if that's all you're doing as a CFO, you're massively underusing the seat. Right, so I think my job when I'm kind of running the team for 2 years now really is to give the team the entire business, right, the clear growth guardrail, right, a path to shoot for the moon, but still with a safety net, and always have a contingency plan for the team, and you ready to pull the ripcord when we need it, but then challenge the team to go swim big, right, because that's how you earn the right to keep playing offense. So that is a very critical mind shift of mine during the years I'm being in the role.
Excellent. Thank you for that. We always like to ask our guests to reflect a little on the personal side for us, share some personal details early in your career, but there's got to be someone who grew up on the other side of the world, has plenty of things we don't know about them. So tell us something about yourself.
There's
people don't know, I guess.
There's something that my team will probably get surprised. I write short fiction under a pen name, and I publish that on the Chinese media. So it's my little creative escape. And that the time that I have some time by my hand, I will sit down and just write a short story. So yeah, that's how I keep my energy flowing.
Are they business related or no? They're all together.
Some of them are, but always lead to a very unexpected ending. So it's a little bit of have a twist at the end.
Sounds like life.
Yes.
There you have it. What about is there a resource or something along the way that influenced you? I think you mentioned Reid Hoffman's book way back when, 10 years ago, whenever it was. I don't know. Any other business books impact your thinking along the way?
There is a book, it's about decision making. It's called Decisive. Decisive, How to Make Better Choices in Life and Work by Chip and Dan Heath. So if you have ever agonized over a big decision or second guess, a tough call, which is literally a day-to-day of CFO's life, I think this book can offer a clear practical tool to, break through some psychological bias that we usually have when we make big decisions. I have found myself going back to this book during the moments when, the stakes are really high and I just haven't got that clarity. I need to, make that final call, and it can teach you to widen your options, test your own assumptions, and really trust the process rather than just your gut. Right. But end of the day, you will realize that your gut is most of the time right, but at least that this can give you the validation, right? You have a process in place. So that is a great book. I highly recommend to any of the finance leaders.
Wonderful. We haven't had it before, so we're always thrilled to get a new selection. So thank you for that. We are up to our final question. And again, this is where we say, let's look forward. Identify your priorities as a CFO for this coming 12 months. What would those be?
Two very clear priorities. Number one, accelerate our AI revenue growth. And number two is reimagine our own team's productivity through the internal AI adoption.
Dan Zhang, thank you for joining us on CFO Thought Leader.
Thank you, Jack, and I had a good time.